So the first topic, why specifically Srimad Bhagavatam? What is so special about it that we are choosing to study Srimad Bhagavatam, and also as followers of Gaudiya Sampradaya, Jiva Goswami says that how Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of Vedas, Puranas, and Itihasas. Somebody may question, hey, why? There are Vedas are there, straightforward. So why would you need go to uh, Puranas instead of going to Vedas? He says, okay, Vedas are whatever we know as Vedas, we don't even have 10% of it. So even that 10% is so vast, and the rest of is all lost. So how can you come to the conclusion of what the Vedas are going teaching us without even having the whole work to its full extent? And then whatever we have is also so vast. Imagine the rest, how big it would be. And he says, the even if you had all of the Vedas like completely intact, still the culture, the context, and the social structure required to understand Vedas, uh, to go through the studies of Vedas and to understand it and to come to the conclusion of what the Vedas wants to tell us is not there. That kind of a culture, social structure is not there. We don't have the luxury of time and energy to dedicate so much. And they are not materials for self study, because it is a very typical symptom of Kali Yuga that all the scriptures are done as self study. Because in the past, Vedas, it is not Vedas were not just someone picks up in their free time during the day and then reads through it. No, that was not how the Vedas were read. That the student has to go to Gurukul, stay there, render service, hear from the spiritual master, and in that way it was assimilated over many years of service and surrender. It was not just for self study. So if we even if we pick up everything, there is this there's so many people, like from Max Muller to so many people have translated Vedas, and it's pretty sure they have not understood what the Vedas are meaning, like, because it reflects in their own life. And even if we do a self study of all the Vedic Vedas, the primary Vedas, still the understanding, the conclusion is not very clear. It is inconclusive still. And when it comes to the Puranas are also so vast. There are like 18 Puranas. And even if you, and then they are divided as Satvika, Rajasika, and Tamasic Puranas. Even if you think, okay, let me give up all the Rajasic and Tamasic Puranas, let me just take the Puranas in the mode of goodness, still they are so vast. Like 6 Puranas. One Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, we are struggling with. And then there are like 5 more Puranas. So to even if you just cut down everything else, there are still 6 Puranas. They're so vast, and there is a lot of interpolations and discrepancies in generally the Puranas. So then how are we going to study all the Puranas? And again, it is confusing for self-study, because some Purana states Lord Shiva is supreme, some Purana states Devi is supreme, some Purana states Vishnu is supreme. So if somebody is like going to do a self-study still all the Puranas, it's going to be very overwhelming. Because the Satvika Puranas are Puranas which start with questions which are very universal. If you see Bhagavatam, it starts with the questions like, what is the ultimate good of everyone? What is the essence of scriptures? So these are very generic, universal questions. But if you see Rajasic, Tamasic Puranas, they will start with specific questions. Okay, how do I do? Give me the procedures of, what do you call? Explain me the glories of this personality. Explain me the glories of. It is very specific. It does not start with universal questions, but all Satvika Puranas start with universal questions. They may have other questions, but their initial questions are very universal. And that is why Satvika Puranas are identified and classified. Still, there are considered to be a lot of interpolations and discrepancies. And even if you read all of that, it's going to be very overwhelming to understand, come to a conclusion, even within Satvika Puranas. Then if somebody says, okay, that's all fine, but I want some literature which has Apaurusha authority, which has the spiritual authority, that it is directly coming from the Supreme Lord. And I want something which is within the Vedic fold, but contains the essence of everything. And also, Vedavyas wrote Brahma Sutras, Vedanta Sutras, as the essence of all the philosophy of the Vedas and the Upanishads. So it should be faithful to the Vedanta Sutra also, and it should be found in full. The particular scripture should be found in full, that it is not like lost. It should have a long history of maintaining without interpolations. So if all these considerations are taken, there is only one Purana that actually fits the description of these conditions. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is a Mahapuran, it describes all 10 characteristics. It is not just any Purana, but it is a Mahapurana. And it has our Apaurushaya authority because Vedavyas ji personally wrote it and edited it also. And it in the Bhagavatam and other Puranas, they again and again repeat that how the Srimad Bhagavatam has the essence of Vedas and Itihasas and the Puranas. And it begins with Janmadi Asyataha, and it has Gayatri Mantras invocation also within it. The very first verse has that nature. And it is one of the oldest Puranas with the commentary, tradition of commentary. Between all the Puranas, it is only Vishnu Puran and Bhagavad Puran that has long tradition of commentary, starting from Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, and all of them. So, in that sense, it has a long history of commentary. Means the advantage of having commentary for over 1,000+ years is that you can go and check what Madhvacharya wrote, and are those same verses today in Prabhupada's commentary. You can go and check. And across sampradayas, like people who are not even in Gaudiya, not even in Madhva, they all have written commentaries. Sri Vaishnavas, Bopadeva has written. So many commentaries are there, which are very old, older than 1,000+ years. So in that sense, it has a long tradition of being preserved in full, and there is hardly any interpolations. There are controversies, but never proven that there are any interpolations in Srimad Bhagavatam. So because from Madhvacharya to Sridhar Swami to everybody has written commentary. So it is one of the Puranas which has a long tradition of commentary. So that means it cannot be interpolated and it is not lost. But why Bhagavad Gita is so important? Because it has such a long tradition of commentary that no literature in this world has been preserved for over 1,000+ years without any interpolation or no verses being lost. So in that sense, Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as the essence of all these scriptures. Sanatan Goswami glorifies Bhagavatam like this. How Srimad Bhagavatam is like the nectar. If you consider Vedas as an ocean, then like how the Samudra Manthan happened. Similarly, if you churn the ocean of all the scriptures, the nectar that comes out is Srimad Bhagavatam. And if you consider the Vedas as a tree, then the most delectable part of the tree is fruit. And it is the prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas. And if you consider conclusions, spiritual conclusions, all spiritual conclusions as jewels, then it is considered as the Ratna, the Siddhanta Ratna, the what do you call Shiromani, the jewel of all philosophical conclusions. And where in this age of Kali, when there is complete loss of spiritual vision, this particular Srimad Bhagavatam has come to give vision. And he also says that this son of Srimad Bhagavatam has risen in the age of Kali Yuga and is non-different from Sri Krishna. So far, we saw why are we choosing Srimad Bhagavatam? We saw how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our Goswamis like Jiva Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and Srila Prabhupada emphasized the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is more than enough for us as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We just don't need any other logic. It is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiva Goswami, and other Goswamis, and Srila Prabhupada has said Bhagavatam is the essence. That itself is enough for us. But we have seen logically how it is very difficult to understand the Vedas and the Puranas in their total and the Itihasas. That is why Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as the essence, because it has all the essential message of all these literatures. What is the essence of Vedas? Understanding Krishna. And the same goes for all Vedic literatures, because Vedas include all the Puranas and the Itihas also. And Mahabharata commentary by Madhvacharya, he states that the essence of Mahabharata is actually glory of Krishna and his devotees. And he says, when in his Bhagavata Tatparya, Madhvacharya says, where Mahabharata leaves, Srimad Bhagavatam picks it up, because it only gives an indication in the direction of the glory of Krishna and his devotees, but Bhagavatam completely expands on in that direction and explains the glory of Bhakti, Bhagavan, and his devotees. So in that sense, Bhagavatam gives the essence of Vedas, Puranas, and Itihasas. We also saw that how it is non-different from Sri Krishna, and we will see Bhagavatam itself will say that how it is non-different from Sri Krishna, and various other Puranas are there support that particular claim. And Srimad Bhagavatam is a Rasa Shastra. Rasa means spiritual life is not just for information. And according to the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the highest of achievement is re-invoking our relationship with Krishna. And if the focus of Bhagavatam is to explain who is Krishna, then our relationship with Krishna is based on of rasa. None of the other Puranas have any clear delineation of rasas. And that is why Veda Vyasji very clearly in the introduction says, Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shukamukad amrita drava samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam. He clearly says this is a rasa scripture, rasa shastra. So there is no other Purana which has this clear delineation of the various rasas that we can have with the Supreme Lord and all the other details to it. And surely it strengthens one's devotion to Krishna because it discusses various pastimes of Sri Krishna. No other Purana is dedicated to the pastimes of Krishna to the extent that Srimad Bhagavatam is dedicated to explaining or discussing the pastimes of Sri Krishna. Various other avatars are all described in other Puranas, also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. However, pastimes of Sri Krishna take the predominant center stage, and a lot of explanation and discussion on the intimate pastimes of Krishna and Vrindavan, Dwaraka, and Mathura. All of this is discussed only in Srimad Bhagavatam and no other Purana. Even if they have other topics, but that is not the central topic. But Srimad Bhagavatam, it is the central topic. Theme of Bhagavatam is very simple. What is the purpose of existence? What is the purpose of human life? That's what is being answered. That is the main theme of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the main objective of Srimad Bhagavatam. To explain this thing, that what is the purpose of our human existence? What is the purpose of our life? It also explains three other things. It says the purpose of our life is to achieve the ultimate object, because success is usually when you have a purpose. Success is when you have a goal to achieve. So here the goal to be achieved, the purpose for the life is to attain the ultimate object, the Supreme Lord Bhagavan, which is called as Uttama Sadhya, means the ultimate objective. And okay, for every goal to be achieved, there is a process that one needs to follow. So what is the ultimate method to achieve this ultimate goal? So that is bhakti, Uttama Sadhana. And what is that ultimate goal itself? After we achieve that object, because when we see, say for example, I want to get money, money is not the goal. With money, I have to do something like that. So like when we say Krishna, Bhagavan is the ultimate object, what do we do with the object? So that is prema. The ultimate Uttama Seva is actually loving Krishna. And that is the ultimate goal. So these are the three things discussed. And this is the theme of Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the ultimate object? That is the Supreme Lord Krishna. What is the ultimate method to actually achieve him? That is bhakti. And what is the goal? Which is to awaken prema for that Supreme Lord through the process of bhakti. So this is the theme of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the second topic we have touched upon. If anybody has anything to ask or share before I move on to the next topic. Okay. Let's see what is the metaphysics of Srimad Bhagavatam. And before going to Srimad Bhagavatam, we also would have to look at the metaphysics of Gita, because that's the basic on which the whole metaphysics of, in one sense, the Vedic literature is also existing. It is personally spoken by the Supreme Lord, so it has the essence of all the Vedic literature. Bhagavad Gita has that extreme credit of having personally spoken by the Supreme Lord with a concern for his devotees. It was not just spoken generically, but with a specific concern for addressing the questions of Arjuna and guiding everyone. And so the metaphysics of Bhagavad Gita deals with, we all know, the five primary subject matters. That is the Supreme, the Ishvara, the Jiva, the soul, Prakriti, material nature, Karma, the loss of karma, and Kala, time. But this is all explained to actually exemplify the concept of yoga. That is, how can the Jiva connect with the Ishvara? So all of the Bhagavad Gita is arranged around this concept of yoga, which is a subtopic, which is not the, which is seems like the subtopic, but is the central topic of the Bhagavad Gita. So that is why Krishna spends and so much energy in explaining all the different yogas. And the Bhagavad Gita itself is divided into three sections: karma, jnana, and bhakti. So yoga is the central subject, and all the other metaphysical elements are aligned to that concept, that how can the jiva connect with Ishvara? Okay, it can connect through karma yoga, it can connect through jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, or dhyana yoga, or bhakti yoga. And Krishna says, I prefer bhakti. I prefer if someone connects with me through the process of bhakti yoga. So in this way, metaphysics of Bhagavad Gita stops here. It gives an overall understanding of these elements and then hints towards the direction of bhakti. And Srimad Bhagavatam takes that metaphysics of Bhagavad Gita, in a very elaborate way. So don't get bewildered with this diagram. This is the uh, product of my fertile imagination. I just wanted to show that how all these things are expanded in the Bhagavatam in a very elaborate way. If you take any topic from the metaphysics of Bhagavad Gita, it's extensively discussed in the Bhagavatam. If you just think of Jiva, then Srimad Bhagavatam goes to the extent of discussing the types of species, like what are the different kind of living entities that exist in this world, like how they all come about. In the creation of the Bhagavatam section, we discuss all the different kinds of species that will be created, from snakes to human beings. And in that also, various different categories of human beings will be discussed. Conditioned, but we all have different natures. And even if somebody out of many, somebody may become a sadhaka, and that also there are many paths. Somebody may be a mixed devotee, somebody can be a rajasic, tamasic, or satvika bhakti, or some shuddha bhakti. All of that is discussed. Sadhakas of different degrees, and then pure devotees are discussed, and eternal associates are discussed. They are jiva tattva, but they are like different. They are eternal associates. And the mind, ego, and intelligence with which the jiva struggles, that is also very clearly explained in the Bhagavatam. So if you just think of Jiva, then there is so much detail given. And if you think of Ishvara, then all the incarnations of the Lord is discussed. Krishna is specifically discussed. The pastime and the associates of the Supreme Lord is discussed. And the various relationships, rasa is discussed. The spiritual world is discussed. Vaikunta is discussed. And Goloka is discussed. Vrindava is discussed. And also the supremacy of the Lord over other devatas are discussed. So in this way, if you consider the path of yoga, specifically bhakti, then bhakti in the three modes, and bhakti, Shuddha bhakti is discussed, and sadhana bhakti is discussed with its various stages, and its comparison with other yogic paths like the dhyana yoga. Kapil Dev describes jnana and sankhya. It is compared with bhakti and establishes the supremacy of bhakti over all other sadhanas by Shukadeva Goswami in the beginning of Canto 2. So Bhagavatam discusses all of these details of the process of bhakti. And if you come to material nature, oh my God, there is so much discussed about the material nature itself, that the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material nature is discussed. Cosmology from a Adi Bhuta and Adi Daivik perspective is discussed in Bhagavatam. Kala, the time details of its calculation and all of that is discussed in the third canto. Karma, Kapil Dev extensively describes that how the living entity travels in this world because of its good and bad karmas, and what kind of punishments in the hellish planets. All of that is also described. And the miseries of material existence is very clearly explained through various pastimes and stories and philosophy and prayers. And in this world, for the living entity to practice bhakti, it also needs a stable social support system. So some details of the varnashram system is also described. And I couldn't even put many other things here. Manus are discussed, like how they manage this material world, established by a support system, and they protect. All of that is also discussed. So the metaphysics of Bhagavatam, if you consider Bhagavad Gita, it's like 10x, 100x of that metaphysics of Srimad Bhagavatam. Every aspect of that details is explained in as much as possible within the 18,000 verses is given for us to appreciate the process of bhakti and the Supreme Lord. With all that is the intent of explaining all of these things. So I hope this kind of answered your question, Ravish Prabhu.
Yes, so in a sense, we can say that this Bhagavatam is an elaborated form of Bhagavad Gita where it explains each and every thing which has been stated in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, we could say that
Okay.
in one perspective. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any thoughts, questions? So far, we saw why Srimad Bhagavatam, why that book very specifically, and then we saw the objective and theme of Srimad Bhagavatam, the overarching theme of Srimad Bhagavatam, and now we saw about the metaphysics of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we aren't even scratching the surface of it. But if any of these things are very confusing, the previous slide, all we need to understand is the metaphysics of Bhagavatam again on a very higher level is like how can we awaken love for Krishna and what is required for that. We need to become a devotee and we need to know the understanding of the process of bhakti and we need to know who the Supreme Lord, our object of worship is. So the details of all of these three with an complete focus of awakening our love for Krishna is what is the underlying metaphysics of Bhagavatam. So there are 10 primary topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is creation, secondary creation. So what is the difference? Creation is what the Supreme Lord does. Secondary creation is what Brahmaji does. That's the simplest definition we can have for now. And then, okay, now the world is created. So how is it going to be maintained? Who is going to maintain it? So who created it? He will only maintain it also. So the Supreme Lord created it. The Supreme Lord maintains it. How he maintains it. So that is discussed through the topics of sthanam, sustenance, where they can be, like he creates physical maintenance first. Basically, he creates all the, what do you call, he upkeeps. There are various kinds of planets that are created, various types of islands that are created, and various types of living situations that are created. And they're all maintained for various purposes. Because someone who wants to enjoy is in a particular place, someone who wants to perform more devotion is in a particular place, like that. And even after giving all these facilities, he has to protect them because the knowledge of bhakti is there, but sometimes while we practice it, we may have difficulties. So then he protects them through poshanam. Special protection he offers for devotees. And that is all discussed through the pastime of Ajamila, Vritrasura, and all of these personalities. Yes, Ajamil had some understanding of bhakti, but he lost it. But Krishna still protected him. And Vritrasur, he took the body of demon, but still his consciousness was protected. So the special protection that Krishna offers, yeah, maintenance of body is one thing, but what is described here in the Bhagavatam is maintenance of one's bhakti, because there is so much things that distract us from bhakti. That what is that special way that Krishna protects our bhakti itself? So that is poshanam. However, we all have so many desires in this world, right? And that's why, because we may have, what you call, Krishna can create and offer us so much facility, but we all have so many desires which kind of makes life complicated. So we see through Parikshit Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu, like what are the different kind of inclinations? Like one is so divine and the other one is so ungodly, atheistic. So we all have different kinds of inclinations, how that leads to different kinds of ways. However, we are neither Prahlad nor Hiranyakashipu. We are somewhere in between. That is why the Canto 7 ends with discussing what you call Varnashram, because that kind of a support system we need for gradual elevation in bhakti. And that is why Uti is described, that the various inclinations we have and the support structure, social system to support a stable psychophysical situation, a stable social situation to practice bhakti stably. But to practice bhakti stably, Krishna again manifests Manus and all the other people to maintain that system. So, what happened during the reign of the Manus and how do they protect this Varnashram system is all discussed in Canto 8 predominantly. And okay, all of this is there. But how do we actually maintain the creeper of bhakti? By Shravanam, hearing about the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. So that is why Ishanukata is described. Physical maintenance is there, and then special protection offered to devotees is there, and then Varnashram system of additional we have conditioning, so additional support is given through Varnashram system. And to support that Varnashram system, Manus and so many other personalities are what do you call stipulated to maintain it. And on top of it, yes, we have a stable social situation, but what do we do with it? If bhakti is not added to it, then it just becomes evahi kevalam. So then pastimes of the Supreme Lord and his devotees are given to maintain our bhakti through Shravanam. And after all of these things, now creation is covered, maintenance is of the material world, and the bhakti is covered. So then the dissolution of the material world is also covered. He is not only creating, maintaining, but is also the source of dissolution, annihilation. So that is also covered. And what is the purpose of all this living, maintaining, and dying? It's to achieve liberation from this material existence. The material existence is not created for the fun of creating, maintaining, and dissolution in a cycle, but it is all created, maintained, and annihilated for the purpose of liberation. So mukti is also described. But who are we getting liberated to? Like, where are we, means what is happening in liberation, what is actual liberation? It is all to discuss the Supreme Lord Ashraya, the Supreme Lord Krishna. He is the one who's creating, he is the one who's maintaining, he is the one who's annihilating, and he is that ultimate object to whom we are going to go and reside with after this at the stage of mukti. So then we need to know who's that Lord. So then the pastimes of Krishna, how he was born, how he grew up, what are the different kinds of pastimes he did, who are his devotees, and all of that is described, so that our whole understanding of all of these other topics become actually complete. So Bhagavatam is not here to describe the history of this world. It is not a scripture to find what happened in the past, what kind of people lived, what was their culture. That is not the focus. If you want to understand cosmology, Bhagavatam is not the book, because it explains cosmology, but the purpose is different. It explains the history of this world, but the purpose is different. It explains the dynasty of the Manvantara and Swayambhu Manu. He explains all the different ways that the creation is created. But they are all not the focus of Bhagavatam. The focus of Bhagavatam is to bring out our love for Krishna, to make us understand the material world is a temporary place, to make us understand bhakti is the uttama path, like the best path for achieving the Supreme Lord. And out of all incarnations, that Krishna is that most sweetest original form to whom we could be attracted to. And this is the focus of Bhagavatam. Because it is 18,000 verses, sometimes we may feel lost because it goes into the details of the topics. However, this is the idea of all these topics, is to just discuss Krishna and to bring our attention towards Krishna. If Bhagavatam goes on and on in so many chapters about cosmology, it is not to give an idea of cosmology. It is to tell Parikshit Maharaj how in this world there are so many places, but they are all temporary. Some places you may enjoy, some places you may suffer, some places you may have this facility, some places may have such wonderful descriptions, but they are all temporary. The spiritual world is the permanent place. So that is the focus of explaining that cosmology. So any history, any pastime is explained for us to understand that particular metaphysics I showed, that prema is the central idea, bhakta, bhagavan, and bhakti. This is the metaphysics of Bhagavatam. And I think I'm very clear. So if any thoughts, questions? Please feel free to stop me anytime. So if it is going to come later, I will tell you, or if it is relevant to the discussion, immediately I'll clarify it. And we could see the structure of Bhagavatam in a way of how a spiritual journey of a sadhaka, in that way also it is presented. Who it is spoken to? Who is Srimad Bhagavatam spoken to?
Parikshit Maharaj.
By
Sukhdev Goswami.
Shukdev Goswami. Okay, that is one iteration of Srimad Bhagavatam. But how did Shukdev Goswami hear Bhagavatam?
From his father,
From his
Vyasadeva.
father Vyasadeva. And from whom Vyasadeva heard it? And also, who's speaking here in the actual Bhagavatam version that we have? Vyasadeva has presented the conversation between the Shaunakadi rishis and the Suta Goswami. So, Shaunakadi rishis and Parikshit Maharaj, they are the prototype of a sadhaka. See, Parikshit Maharaj is going to die in 7 days. So he represents someone who is eager to know about Krishna but does not know. So, of course, he is just playing the part. He is a great devotee. Still, he is asking questions. Okay, I don't know anything about life. Then that's how the Bhagavatam starts and handholds. Shukadev Goswami is speaking the whole Bhagavatam to help Parikshit Maharaj to achieve perfection in 7 days. The Bhagavatam is arranged in such a way that it addresses the basic question of who am I, what is this world, what is my connection with the material world, what is my connection with the Supreme Lord, what is this process of bhakti, how do I practice it. All of these topics of sambandha is all discussed in the beginning cantos. So how the world is created. So then it just blows our mind. Oh my God, the world is so big, I'm so small. We all have such a huge ego. So we all think we are the center of the world. So then Bhagavatam just, what do you call, like punctures that balloon. Oh, you think so great, you're so great. Okay, you understand how big the world is. So then it gives a description of the universe in such a fantastic way that we feel like, oh my God, I'm like, who am I? What is happening? Like you just feel lost. And if you feel lost, that is the purpose that Bhagavatam wants to create actually. To create desperation in our heart to make, my God, I need to take shelter of bhakti. So if you feel like little lost reading the initial stages of Bhagavatam, so Shukdev Goswami is doing his job right, and you are going through the process of reading Bhagavatam. It is to make us feel so small and so insignificant. How big is the creation? Brahmaji is bewildered, and he is seeing and how the world is coming from Shirodakshaya Vishnu, and then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and then Karanodakshaya Vishnu, then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Shirodakshaya Vishnu, then Brahmaji. So it's so fantastic that we feel like we realize we get put in our place actually through those initial cantos. So that is the Sambandha Gyan it gives. Okay, who am I? What is my connection with this world? And what is bhakti and how do I practice it? And who's the Supreme Lord? What is my connection with him? So and if I start bhakti, what are the various kinds of obstacles that's going to come? So that we will see that so many personalities through their history, Shukdev Goswami is telling us, okay, don't be like Dhruva, so attached to material things, or don't be like Daksha, so attached to being egoistic and proud. Don't be like this. Don't be like Sati, too much attached to family that you disobey your spiritual master or something like that. So each and every personality is teaching us, okay, what is the good way to be and what is the wrong way to be. So they are exemplifying some qualities for us to learn from. So we are not here, oh, let's discuss the pastime of Sati. Yes, the idea is to discuss the pastime, but the central theme is to make us understand that there are obstacles, that there are giving lessons to us so that we can actually better our practice of bhakti. And then the various facilities created by the Supreme Lord and the protection that he offers, all that is given. The Sambandha Gyan is given. And then the more process knowledge about Abhideya is also given, glories of bhakti. Special bhakti is how merciful and how Krishna's special protection comes along with the practice of bhakti through the history of Ajamila, history of Vritrasura, and the history of Narada Muni, and all of these various personalities. We hear the glories of bhakti. Gajendra gets by being protected by the Lord. Ajamil being protected. So all of these things, the glories of bhakti, glories of devotees. Ambarish Maharaj, how forgiving he is, or how all these various personalities. And also, Shukdev Goswami is choosing king after king to give example for Parikshit Maharaj. Because he is a king. He is telling, okay, you think yourself as a king, see all these kings of the past. Either they just lived as a materialist and suffered, or they were such great devotees. Despite being king, they were so humble. They were so focused. So he spoke about Prithu Maharaj, he spoke about Dhruva, he speaks about all the other kings, so that Parikshit can get lessons from them. So in this way, the process of Abhideya is given. Okay, if we don't know about God in detail, then how will we be able to connect with him? So then pastimes of Krishna, pastimes of various other incarnations of the Lord are described. And the Prayojan, the Supreme Lord about himself, is also described. Because Krishna is the Prayojan, Krishna is the Sambandha, Krishna is the Abhideya. Because with Krishna we have Sambandha, and in connection with Krishna we have Abhideya, and in achieving Krishna we have Prayojana. So by explaining Krishna in the 10th canto, Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana, everything is discussed. But specifically, Krishna as the Prayojana. So in this way, you can see the whole Bhagavatam as a journey of a seeker, that if we begin in the canto 1, we will eventually, gradually achieve complete perfection as we progress through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is another way of understanding Bhagavatam structure, that it addresses it. Actually, it helps us to see this journey of ours in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the journey of Parikshit Maharaj, in this journey of the Shaunakadi Rishis. Shaunakadi Rishis are given as the example of inquisitive by Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says out of the 4, like there are 4 categories: people who come to Krishna because of distress, desire, inquisitiveness, and knowledge. And Gajendra is one who is in distress, and Dhruv Maharaj is in one who is in desiring something. Shaunakadi Rishis, they are inquisitive, and Sanakadi Rishis, the 4 Kumaras, are one who is in knowledge. So the Shaunakadi Rishis, who are an example of inquisitiveness, become pure devotees at the end of Bhagavatam. They have heard all Puranas. Imagine the amount of inquisitiveness you need to have to hear all Vedic literature. Sab Kam Chor Charke means they gave up everything. They came and sat in they came and sat in, what is the forest? Naimisharanya for years and years. And they heard all the Puranas. And still the fire of inquisitiveness did not go away. They asked, okay, Shuta Goswami, we heard that you went and got updated with Srimad Bhagavatam as the latest thing. So please explain to us. Because all the Puranas they heard, all the Itihasas they heard. Like you see any Purana, it is asked by Shravanakadi Rishis only. They are the ones who was asking the question. Hey, I want to hear about that topic, this topic, everything. So they have had such inquisitiveness. After hearing everything, they say, we have been doing this yagya, but our faces have become dark. That is what we have gained by doing these Jnani Yagya, from the smoke of all these Karma Kanda sacrifices and the Jnani Yagya. We want to now hear about Srimad Bhagavatam. So finally they hear Srimad Bhagavatam, their heart is fully satisfied. They are completely convinced. They say over the course that, okay, we don't want to hear anything. Just go on. Don't just stop. Just we want to hear more about Krishna. Speak more. So they keep inspiring Sutta Goswami to speak more. Because Sutta Goswami only gives a short thing we will discuss in the canto 1. So he only speaks short and then finishes all the answers. They say, oh my God, we have dedicated our lives to hearing and you have finished the lecture in 45 minutes. No, please speak more. So that's how the rest of the 7 days happens. Like the rest of the 12 cantos comes up. So in that way, we see the spiritual journey of a sadhaka through the life of Parikshit Maharaj and the Shaunakadi Rishis. And so this is the last slide. Believe me, I'm going to stop soon. So why so complicated, right? Why life is so complicated? Why Bhagavatam is so layered? Why so much? Can it be not very simple? It is actually simple. If we are like, if we don't understand anything, as long as you achieve, you develop attraction for Krishna, then the purpose of Bhagavatam is achieved. So if we don't, so it's not very complicated, but it's just that reality is complicated. That's how, and we are very complicated. Believe me, we are not simple. We like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the mind has millions of vrittis. The mind has millions of vrittis. So we are not very simple. We are so complicated. So Bhagavatam is having one pastime for to address each one of our major vrittis. So that is why it is also layered and elaborate. So if anybody is there to be blamed, so it is we who have to be blamed for being so complicated, that Bhagavatam has to become so complicated to handle us. When the patient has a intense disease, then the treatment plan is also very intense. You cannot say, I have cancer and give me some like antibiotic or like just a paracetamol, or, and no, it doesn't work like that. If then the treatment is also very intense. So if anybody is like, if they are complicated, so then Bhagavatam has real complication, like it deals with that complication in a way to clean us, like in a way to cure us. So don't see Bhagavatam as being so complicated. See, it is my medicine. I have all this complication that I need to get out of my system. So if I want to become simplified, then this is the medicine to become simplified. So it's more like a treatment plan. So, and all of these is centered around Krishna, and all the other topics that we saw, sarga, visarga, like creation, secondary creation, maintenance, protection, manvantras, and the pastimes of the Lord, and dissolution and liberation, all of these topics are centered around ashraya and understanding the Supreme Lord. And it is not that one canto discusses one topic. However, some of the cantos predominantly discuss those topics. Say, for example, Sthanam is predominantly discussed in Canto 5. Uti is predominantly discussed in Canto 7. Manvantra is predominantly discussed in Canto 8. There is no denying of it. And Nirodha is predominantly discussed in Canto 12. However, if you see Sarga or Visarga, right from Canto 2, Canto 3, Canto 4, all of these cantos touch on Sarga and Visarga. It is not, Jiva Goswami says, we don't want to say one canto addresses one topic. He almost considered it as very offensive. However, for practical reasons, even Srila Prabhupada named the cantos as one. He even does not care about it. He says first canto is creation. There is no understanding of creation in the canto, but Prabhupada is like, who cares? Just gives the name, the creation for the first thing. Because the understanding is like all of these topics are discussed in all the cantos. So there is no way to actually delineate it. You will go crazy by naming the cantos, because every canto has all the topics. So then how will you name each canto? So Prabhupada said, who cares about it? People, as long as they understand Krishna as a Supreme Lord, nobody remembers the names of each cantos sometimes. So Prabhupada went ahead and kept 1 to 10 the names in order. And then he kept the last 2 cantos as general history and age of deterioration, like that. So Jiva Goswami also says, does not matter naming convention, because all the cantos discuss all the topics. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur does give some credit to, because they discuss one of the topics in major. So again, why so complicated? Because nothing is complicated. It's all to bring out Krishna. That even if you find it is all complicated, take a breath and come back to the central topic, that it is to actually bring about the understanding of the Supreme Lord. So with that, pretty much we are actually, this is what we saw about the structure of Srimad Bhagavatam, that we saw about the 10 topics. And there are so many ways that you can look at the 10 topics. I only took one perspective of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. That's the only one perspective. We could take it from the perspective of Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan. We could take it from the perspective of Shukadeva Goswami answering Parikshit Maharaj. We could take the perspective of Krishna's personal form. So many other aspects of seeing the structure of Bhagavatam is there, and the 10 topics. And Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan, we saw how the structure of Bhagavatam is according to that, as a spiritual journey of any seeker. And why not take shelter of Krishna directly if he is the only thing? We are not so simple. If our heart is like completely cleansed of everything and our heart is always absorbed in Krishna, it would be much easier. That is the purpose of Bhagavatam. However, if we have many other vrittis still, then it is better to go through gradually and come to the Canto 10. It's not that Krishna is only available in Canto 10. Krishna is available throughout. Every word it is said, Bhagavatam has in every akshara, in every line, every verse, every canto, every chapter and every canto, that Krishna is personified there.